All right, hello everyone, and thanks for joining us today. My name is Jake Teisinger, and I'm the Program Manager for the Home Upgrade Program. As Bianca mentioned, we're going to go through the 2017 Home Upgrade Program changes today as they apply to the Home Upgrade Pathway and Advanced Home Upgrade Pathway. If any of you are installing in the PG&E SoCal Gas Shared Territory, we will also provide general guidance as far as how to move through this process. We'll go through key dates at the end and then go through questions and comments. And because the changes to Home Upgrade and the Advanced Home Upgrade Pathway are a bit different, we will pause after the Home Upgrade Pathway section to address any questions that have come in. Please do send those through the questions panel, and we'll answer them as we can if we can. Otherwise, we will bring them up in between the Home Upgrade and Advanced Home Upgrade section. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so first we're going to talk through the program changes as they relate specifically to the Home Upgrade Pathway. Effective January 1st, there is a new rebate range for the Home Upgrade Pathway jobs. The minimum is $1,000 for homes that are built before 1993, and it's $1,500 for the homes built in 1993 or after. I believe the minimum was based on points before, and we'll talk a little bit about that down the way. But the new range is rebates available are between $1,000 and $2,500. New this year also, rebates will be capped at 50% of the completed installation cost. So if you do a scope of work that is, say, $3,900, but your rebate was slated to be $2,000, that will be prorated and capped at 50% of the completed installation cost. As I mentioned just previously, the measure points no longer exist. We're moving to a more straightforward system that applies measure rebate value to the to the measures. So rather than previously, duct sealing was worth 25 points. In the new program, effective January 1, duct sealing is worth $200. And we'll go through on the next page the next few pages, really, the new measure rebate values for the measures. Also new this year, when you create an application, you will need to upload a customer-signed scope of work for the Home Upgrade Pathway. That will be just uploaded as an attachment with all the other attachments that are required at the point of application creation for Home Upgrade. And the rebate values have been reduced for the 2017 year. So let's go ahead and move into the table here to look at the measures and how those values have changed. So we'll start with the base measures first. All Home Upgrade scopes of work need to include at least one base measure. Duct sealing went from $250 to $200. Duct replacement was reduced from $650 to $350. The whole building air sealing, a 15% measure has been removed. So if you are selecting whole building air sealing as a base measure, it will need to be a 30% reduction. 15% is no longer eligible. And the attic insulation and plain air sealing measure was reduced from $650 to $500. So I'll give you just a minute on these. I should note that we are recording this presentation and we will be distributing the slides afterward. All of these changes are also available at homeupgrade.org under the program update section. So you can reference that immediately, and we'll also send these slides after the presentation. So I'll go ahead and move into the flex measures. First set of flex measures, wall insulation was reduced from $500 to $400. Floor insulation reduced from $550 to $400. Duct insulation was reduced from $400 to $250. For a 92% AFUE gas furnace, it was reduced from 600 to 350. The 95% was reduced from 7 to 400. And the efficient gas wall furnace was reduced from 400 to 250. For the rest of the flex measures, you can see here, central air conditioner reduced from 750 to 500. High performance windows are unchanged. They remain at $700. The efficient gas water heater, EF67, was reduced from 350 to 200. The EF70 was reduced from 450 to 300. The tankless water heater was reduced from 900 to 500, and the efficient electric water heater or heat pump water heater was increased from 400 to 500. New to the program this year, there is a kicker being made available for high performance HVAC installation. The minimum requirements are listed here, and we realize that a lot of this information may be new or unfamiliar to some contractors. One resource that is currently available on the website relates to the high performing HVAC installation pilot program. We've listed the URL to that webpage down below here. And if you are interested in doing this one, you will want to navigate to that site and get familiar with some of the background requirements and also the forms that would need to be completed. The details on this are still being worked out, so we don't have, we don't have all the exact requirements, but we do know that if this measure is being selected, we will require a document submission to validate that the performance targets were met. This will likely require some trainings, and we will hold webinars in January again to touch on this topic specifically, along with a few other of the changes that start to impact 2017 submissions. If you have any questions about this in the meantime and you've checked out the URL, please do reach out to us, and we'll do the best we can. But otherwise, keep an eye out for another webinar in January to go through this. Okay, so there were some technical specifications that changed. What we've done here is we've listed the specifications for the measures that are in fact changing. A lot of these are or some of these are being moved to align with code or better. So starting with duct replacement, 2016 building code requirement is 5%, so the duct replacement measure does require sealing to 5% or lower for replacement ducts. For whole building air sealing, again, this really is just showing that the 15% leakage reduction measure is removed, and so you need to do a 30% or higher leakage reduction from the vintage table defaults. The attic insulation and plain air sealing, this is really more of a clarification. It's not as much a change. This applies in pretty infrequent circumstances, usually homes with flat roofs or potentially even Eichler-style cathedral roofs. In the cases where there's not enough clearance to insulate to R44, R19 is a valid R value to achieve. But really this is for special circumstances. If you do think you are working on a home that fits these circumstances, please reach out to us ahead of time and we will walk you through this. Wall insulation, insulating to R13 for 2x4 framing, insulating to R19 for 2x6 framing. The efficient gas wall furnace, the minimum technical spec is equal to or greater than 76% AFUE. For high performance window, the U factor went from 0.32, less than or equal to 0.32, to less than or equal to 0.30. So again, this applies to all measures that are installed as part of a scope signed in 2017 and beyond. Okay, moving on, we mentioned rebate reservations, and I should mention again that we will be having a webinars in January to talk through this process a little more specifically. We wanted today's webinar to really focus on these 2016 applications and how you can move them through the system, but it's worth noting that in 2017, all applications, this does apply to both pathways, we'll cover it again, but all applications do require a rebate reservation. And the way you do that is through the same mechanisms you have been using. So you will need to create an application through the job submission portal in the home upgrade pathway. And for that created application, you must include a valid customer, the estimated incentive total, meaning you select enough measures that lead to a valid scope, and the portal does provide you an estimated incentive total. You must also complete the installation cost. This is important because it applies, the 50% rebate cap will apply here, and in order to get an accurate incentive value, in order for us to, quote unquote, reserve it, we need to know how the scope, the completed installation cost, and the incentive total work together. And then finally, you must also upload a customer-assigned scope of work to confirm that the measures you've selected are part of a scope signed by a valid customer. And rebate reservation requests do not guarantee application approval. All program requirements must be met in order to process an application. Be sure to manage customer expectations. The reservation is essentially holding your place in line and allowing us to understand the amount of volume in the pipeline to be able to plan accordingly with the currently $6.5 million incentive level available for 2017. So the rebates are not approved, they're not fully approved until the application gets approved by our desktop review and is approved for payment. But it does essentially say if you have an application in this status and it doesn't stay there more than 60 days and you move it through the pipeline, it meets all other program requirements, we are essentially holding those funds out of the $6.5 million. So I hope that makes sense. If there's any questions around that, of course, please do send them. We will cover this again in the Advanced Home Upgrade pathway. Okay, so related to the rebate reservation, to avoid reservations living in the system indefinitely, there will be auto cancellation of applications in the created stage if they've stayed there for more than 60 days. So for home upgrade applications that are in the created status will be canceled on day 61 if they're not submitted before that. Whoever with your company is submitting these applications, uploading them into the portal, the email address associated with that individual will receive at least 3 email notifications before cancellation. We're planning right now, after it's been created for 30 days, we will begin sending you notifications and reminders that on day 61 this application will be canceled if it's not submitted before then. Of course, the test-in results are valid for 120 days after you complete them in order to submit the app. So if your application does get canceled, you could create a new application and submit that if you needed to. If, of course, you pass that 120 days from test-in, those results are no longer valid. But to avoid this, create an application that you can submit within 2 months, essentially. And if you submit it, it won't be canceled, and it'll move through the system as usual. Once it is canceled, it cannot be uncanceled. There's no way to undo that. So you would have to, and I see a typo here, excuse that please, but please do create a new application in the portal once it is canceled. Similarly, for contractor action required applications, if those are stuck in contractor action required for 60 days, they will be canceled on day 61. Just like the created apps, the submitter will receive a minimum 3 emails before cancellation. And for these, as long as, once it moves to contractor action required, if you resubmit these to us, the clock will restart. So If you have a valid application in the system and the homeowner, you can't get in there to schedule it, or there's other work being done and it's tough to meet that window, resubmit it so it goes back into a resubmitted phase, and that clock will essentially restart once it enters contractor action required. Just like with the created apps, once it is canceled, you must create a new application. These cannot be uncanceled. This one we have covered through some e-blasts earlier in the year and through some emails, but wanted to go through this again. A proof of permit closure is required for all jobs. This is for all jobs that are being paid in 2017, so this really is effective now. The proof of permit closure is required for central air conditioning, including air handlers with air conditioning, split and package units, heat pumps, including air handlers with heat pumps, air source, ground source, hybrid, and split and package units, and the fans associated with these central AC and heat pumps. The way this looks will vary by jurisdiction and permit type depending on where you're working. So in some cases that's a screenshot, in some cases it's a scan of the closed permit. It'll look a little different by jurisdiction. So if you have questions, do your best to send what you think works for it. If our desktop team, if it doesn't meet the requirements, they'll work with you to let you know. And because this is a new requirement and there are so many jurisdictions, we're collecting these different versions of what permit closure looks like so that we can work with you all to make sure we're all on the same page about how it does, how it varies by jurisdiction. We want to make this as painless as possible, so we're working with you here to try to build up different versions of what this could look like. But again, if you have any questions about it for your specific jurisdiction you're working in, give us a question, reach out, show us an example, and we'll help you out. All right, so for the home upgrade pathway, specifically some key dates. January 1st, 2017, this is when the new rebate amounts and requirements are effective. All jobs with a contract signed in 2017 are only eligible for 2017 rebates and requirements. If you do sell a job between January 1st and February 1st, we do ask that you wait to submit it until February 8th. Otherwise, it will be rejected at submission and you'll have to submit a new one after February 8th. We are using the time between now and February 1st to collect all of the 2016 jobs and make sure those get processed accurately and under the existing requirements. And after February 1st, we're going to switch over the system to apply all the new rebate structures and amounts. So that's why we're asking that you hold those for now. January 9th is the recommended date. If you do have a project that was signed, the scope was signed before 2017, we recommend you submit it to us by then. Between advanced home upgrade pathway, corrections, resubmittals, etc. That should give both parties enough time to resolve any issues with these and make sure they can move through the system okay. Ultimately, February 1st is the deadline for which 2016 applications need to be approved. And this deadline really works in two different ways. It means that if you want your application to receive a 2016 level rebates, it needs to be approved by February 1st. But the system is also switching over for home upgrade jobs. So all of the applications that don't reach, all of the home upgrade applications that don't reach application approved will be canceled and won't be able to be resubmitted after that. February 1st acts as the very last day. If you have applications in the pipeline in any stage, those need to be approved by February 1st in order to be processed. Otherwise, they'll no longer be eligible. Again, this is specific to the home upgrade pathway. It does not apply to advanced. We'll talk about that later. So once all applications are in, end of day, and approved, February 1, the submission portal will be closed for a week to allow us to switch it over and to get all those applications submitted and paid. And on February we will reopen the portal, and that's when you can start submitting all 2017 projects. So those that have a scope of work customer signed 2017 and later. Okay, so now that we are at the Advanced Home Upgrade Pathway section, we're going to take a break to go through some of the questions that have come in. Give us a few minutes to go through these, and we will be right back and read through them. Okay, so first question that came in is plain air sealing required when insulating? Yes, it is. The attic insulation and ceiling measure it's a combined. You must do both to the required technical specifications in order for it to be eligible. Next question that came in, will there be an updated rebate calculator spreadsheet? So the way to calculate rebates is always going to be through uploading the job into the job submission portal. Once you put in, we're talking about home upgrade, once you select the measures, it will assign the point values, or excuse me, point values will be removed. It will assign the dollar values for those measures, and it will be the official estimator tool to use. So if you have a question about the rebate amount, it should be straightforward with home upgrade. Each measure has a dollar value. So please input those into the portal, and that will give you the rebate estimate. Okay, there's a few questions that came in that I think are better suited for direct interaction, so we'll get to those individually. But here's one: if no AC is on site, do we require a proof of permit closure? And that if there's no AC or no heat pump, then no, there's not proof of permit closure required. Second part to that question: if PG&E is not paying for the AC upgrade, do we still need to have proof of permit closure? And the answer to that is yes. There's a Senate bill that is requiring this, so it is a statewide for all utilities involved. The new home upgrade pathway states 3 measures and 1 base measure for 2017. Is that going to be for a total of 4 measures? Great question. I noticed that the wording in that could be a bit confusing. There is no change in the number of measures required from a pure measure quantity standpoint. The minimum incentive value has to be $1,000 for pre-93 homes, $1,500 for post-93. But the base requirement is still 3 total measures, and one of those has to be a base measure. So good question. $1,500 minimum for homes built on or after 1993, vintage 93 to 01. Does this mean that homes built after 2001 do not qualify anymore? No, homes built after homes built after 2001 do qualify. The main requirement is that homes can't be new in this program. These need to be existing homes. So if there's a home built in 2001, it does qualify. That's just the vintage label. It's really more important in this case to pay attention to the specific year that it was built. So no new homes, but yes, anything prior to new construction is valid. And to tie into that one a little bit and answer a previous question, are homes 93 and newer eligible for the 30% leakage reduction? No, they are not. The home upgrade, the building leakage conversion targeting tool that has the estimator tool, you can find that on our the resources library at homeupgrade.org. You can see from there it's not eligible. So if you have a home 93 or newer, no, you won't be able to select a whole building air sealing leakage measure. Okay, so this question is created considered under construction. Is there a different status once a job is pre-approved? And how long after a pre-approval do we have to post-submit final approval? So this one sounds like it applies to either advanced home upgrade or it may just be a difference in the language we're using. For our purposes, a created application is simply one that you've gone into the job submission portal and you've entered all the minimum information. So a valid customer, the estimated incentive total, you select all the measures and the system outputs an incentive estimate. The total estimated total completion cost, installed cost, and then you've uploaded a signed scope of work. So for our purposes, that is what a created application resembles, and you have 60 days to submit that into the system. If you have completed all those base requirements and created that app and added those fields, it is considered reserved, and so you have 60 days then to submit it at that point. Okay, and then a question: from now through the end of this year, can we be selling off of the new program? So I guess the answer here is that the current rebate structure is valid for all applications that are signed 2016 or earlier and that are submitted February 1st or earlier. If you have an application signed this year, it really needs to be eligible under the existing programs. If you sign the scope in 2017, then it's eligible under the new program requirements, and it'll have to be submitted February 8th. A test-in is valid for 120 days. Does that mean it is now only valid for 60 days? No, it's still valid for 120 days, but you have 60 days once you create an app to submit it. So let's say you create an application, and it takes 75 days to get all your pieces in order. Your initial application will be canceled, but you can create a new application and use those same test-in results. And assuming everything else is valid, the application, will be a new submission, so it will still be valid as far as that's concerned. Okay, so that is all the questions for now. There are a handful that will be reaching out to you directly. They sound like some edge case questions. We don't want to take all of today's call to discuss them, but we can reach out individually. We're going to move on to the advanced home upgrade pathway changes now. Okay, so for the advanced home upgrade pathway, the first change is that incentives will be capped at 50% of the completed installation cost, just as home upgrade applications are. The completed installation costs, reflects what is signed on the contract, on the scope of work. It's also input into the energy modeling report when you're completing the modeling, and it's also input into the job submission portal. And it's really important that you keep all three of these aligned in order to manage customer expectations and help them understand what exact, what rebate amount they'll be eligible for. And it really helps with the desktop review team that those three are all in alignment because they come from essentially three different sources. Those will be pieces that they're verifying. So keep that in mind as you're completing the installation costs. For submissions, that it's aligned on the contract, in the energy modeling report, and then again in the job submission portal when you type it in. That'll make sure it goes through more smoothly at desktop review. But incentives are capped at 50% of the completed installation cost. Marketing materials will advertise an incentive of up to $5,500 rather than up to $6,500. So those marketing materials will be available in the new year. Please make note of that if you are doing any of the co-branding and you're utilizing these resources, that if you have old ones showing the $6,500, those really won't be able to be used in 2017. The program is also being opened up to existing program contractors who have C licenses that are consistent with the scope of work being installed. So if you have a C2, 4, 20, or 36, and you're currently only participating in home upgrade, but you want to participate in advanced, please do reach out to us, and we can talk through your scenario, and if it works, then we can allow you to participate in the advanced home upgrade pathway. So enrollment is not scheduled at this point to be reopened for new contractors, but if you're in the program and you're only participating in home upgrade and you have a C license listed here and are interested in advanced home upgrade, please do reach out, and there may be potential for you to participate in the advanced home upgrade pathway. Okay, moving into a little more nuanced situation. This one is fairly complex. It can be a little confusing, so we've tried to break it down to share it here. Just wanted to be completely transparent about how they're being incentives are being calculated when we go through this new portal. There are negative modeled energy savings that some of the models do produce, depending on scopes of work. Often, if you're going from a ductless to a ducted system, or some jobs that are heavy on insulation but don't have window or HVAC upgrades, there's a handful of scenarios that when you model it in the energy modeling software, you'll get a negative value of some type. All of these savings will be calculated when the incentive is calculated. So previously, if there were negative savings, those were being zeroed out. The incentive value associated with the negative savings was being zeroed out. The negative savings gets passed on. And so if you have a job like the example I provided here, where your site savings is valid, 10% or higher, you have a rebate and all the eligible measures, everything else is valid, but you have, say, negative kWh savings, positive therm savings, the kicker will be calculated as a negative amount when the incentive is added up. So this job right here would yield a $2,863.96 rebate. Previously, that $214 would have been essentially wiped out of the equation, but that's no longer possible, so the rebate will be calculated straight across. If you have a lot of jobs where the energy model is yielding negative savings, I would pay note of this, especially if you're estimating rebate amounts. those will be calculated and combined into the incentive value. And again, if you have questions about this one, it's fairly complex and pretty specific to certain scopes of work. So do reach out to us. We can walk through and do a desktop session or just help work through how this would impact your scopes of work. Moving into rebate reservation, just like home upgrade pathway, advanced home upgrade pathway does require a rebate reservation. It looks similar to home upgrade, but because of the submission process, it's a little bit different. So for advanced home upgrade, to consider a rebate reserved, an application must be in pre-install created, and it must include valid customer, estimated incentive total, completed installation costs, and the HPXML model must be uploaded. The main purpose of the rebate reservation, of course, is to, since there is a limited amount of incentive dollars available in 2017, it's to be able to figure out how many jobs are in the queue and manage customer and contractor expectations accordingly. What we will do as part of these reservations is we'll be taking a look at these in an ongoing fashion, and we'll be giving updates to participants of the program, at this point at least on a biweekly basis, potentially more depending on the need and the the flexibility to do so. We want to be really open about how many jobs are in the queue, what the values are, and how many dollars are remaining to be used for the program. Ideally, this won't even have to, this won't even impact it. We can stretch these dollars through the year, but we want to make sure that we're getting on this right away and keeping everyone aware of how much opportunity there is. We don't know yet if that'll be a dashboard on the website or weekly emails or on the job submission portal, but we will be giving you at least bi-weekly updates to keep you in the loop. Applications, if and when we get to that point, they'd be put on a wait list if we did reach that incentive total, and then after things shake out through canceled jobs and whatnot, we would do our best to spread those dollars across. That's as much information as we have right now. That's going to be the plan for 2017. So it's going to be a new piece, and we're working through the details of it, but want to make this as easy as possible for you all to interact with. And again, as we described in home upgrade, rebate reservations aren't a guarantee. You do still have to submit that application within all the time frames and meet the program requirements, reasonable valid scopes and everything. So again, I hope that makes sense. We will be doing another webinar in January that goes through the details of what this looks like in the portal, and just so you guys can have a snapshot of knowing when an application is considered reserved or not. Okay, and just like in the home upgrade pathway, there will be auto cancellation in the advanced home upgrade pathway. Any application that is in pre-install created for more than 60 days will be automatically canceled. The submitter will receive a minimum 3 emails before it's canceled. The application, in order to avoid cancellation, you just need to submit it into the portal. Once it's canceled, you'll have to create a brand new application. We won't be able to uncancel that for you. And just like in home upgrade, if it's in pre-install contractor action required after 60 days, the application will be canceled. All the other processes do apply. If you have a valid job that's ongoing and it's in this stage, simply resubmit it from the contractor action required stage, back to our reviewer, and they'll review it, and when they return it, it'll restart the clock. We've talked through this one. This slide is the same as the one previous. Proof of permit closure is required. We talked through this impacts all utilities. So regardless of the scope, if you're of the territory that you're operating in, if you're submitting through our program and your scope includes one of the pieces of equipment listed here, you will need to provide a proof of permit closure. and that'll be uploaded as an attachment at job submittal. Okay, key dates for advanced home upgrade. All jobs with contracts signed in 2017 are only eligible for 2017 rebates and requirements. If you sell a job between January 1 and February 1, please wait to submit that until February 8th. We recommend if you do have 16 jobs and you want to get them in to meet the February 1st approval deadline, that you submit them to us January 9th, again to allow time for review, returns, corrections, this increased volume as a result of the program change. Just want to set expectations now so everybody knows what to expect when we go into the new year. All applications that don't reach application approved, post-install approved, I should say, by February 1 will automatically be listed under the 2017 program requirements. So the biggest change that would mean is that if you have a job for which the rebate is slated to be more than 50% of the completed installation cost, and you don't get this post-install approved by February 1, that will be prorated automatically. And I believe, we've identified some of these jobs already. We've worked with some people to reach out. We will be continuing to do that. Establish contact with us early. We want to do what we can to make sure we can get these all in. It applies to home, that goes for home upgrade too. Keep us in the loop, and we'll try to work with you to get these applications submitted in time. If you can get them submitted to us by January 9th, that gives enough time for everybody, but after that, you risk these not necessarily making the deadline. February 8th, just like in home upgrade, the portal will shut down after February 1st for just under a week, and it'll reopen in February 8th. The biggest change between home upgrade and advanced home upgrade as it applies here is those in-process jobs in advanced home upgrade will not be canceled. If you have jobs that are in the queue, those will remain in the queue and will be available in the portal after beginning February 8th. Okay, if you are a contractor who participates in the PG&E SoCalGas shared territory, it's important to know there are no rebate changes, no changes to the rebates, incentives, or point structure of home upgrade or advanced home upgrade. Some of the changes that do apply, the whole building air sealing, the 15% leakage reduction measure is removed from home upgrade. Rebates and incentives for both home upgrade and advanced home upgrade will be capped at 50% of the completed installation cost. All of the measure technical specification updates do apply. These meet or exceed 2016 building codes, so these do apply in this case as well. Please do reference the chart on the website and in these slides if you are someone who installs in these areas. And you are subject to the rebate reservation requirement as well, so you will have to submit a rebate reservation for all home upgrade and advanced home upgrade jobs. Okay, so we're going to move into the question and comment section. While we gather those, I'll just go through, share some program context and next steps. Review the website for more information. We mentioned the program updates are on homeupgrade.org. We are working to update the program documents to apply these changes, and those should be ready in the new year. Also, if you are interested in the high-performing HVAC installation kicker, please do review that URL I shared earlier that shows the high-performing HVAC installation pilot outline and some of those documents. Again, we'll have a webinar in the new year that talks a little more specifically to that kicker, so stay tuned for updates there. We do plan to have a webinar in the new year that also goes through SoCalGas, PG&E SoCalGas shared territory submissions, because you will be using the same portal, but the rebates and incentives are slightly different. We'll have to treat those differently from the rest of the applications. So if you're impacted by that, keep an eye out for information on a webinar in the new year. Here's some contact information if you're not familiar, questions about enrollment, general questions if you have application in the pipeline or applications that are going through inspection. You can look at all the respective contact information here. This is all, of course, on our website as well, homeupgrade.org. And I've just included the key dates here. I'll leave these up while we go through the questions. So give us a few minutes. We have about 12 minutes remaining. We'll get through as many questions as we can. And if there are any remaining questions, we'll either reach out to you individually or include them when we send out these slides. So give us a few minutes. We'll go through these and be right back. First question, will there be a maximum negative model savings threshold, and if so, what are they? There will not be any negative savings thresholds. Those will be removed. Of course, the negative savings attributed with those submissions will be calculated, so pay attention to that. We are updating the job submission portal to reflect it accordingly, but it will lead to, you know, some additional negative incentive before it gets all rolled up. Fuel switching, of course, is still not allowed, so if there's negative savings attributed to fuel switching, our desktop review will return those, but the thresholds are not there. Okay, question about home upgrade. We have to upload a signed scope of work to the reservation. That's correct. What if the scope of work changes during construction, or they hit a 10% leakage instead of 5, et cetera? Is there an opportunity to adjust the reservation when submitting the final documents? So yes, there is for the home upgrade. When you're selecting those measures and you've added all your documents, the rebate reservation could potentially change throughout that time. You basically have 60 days to finalize all of that and to submit it to our portal. Obviously, the less it changes, the better, because it gives us a more accurate picture of what's in the pipeline and how many jobs can be paid. But yeah, of course, there'll be changes, and in this case, you will be able to update an app that's created before you submit it. If it's already submitted to us, it's a different story, but if it's still in the created stage and you've got through the reservation, you've included the customer information, the scope, and the incentive total and completed cost, and you haven't submitted yet, you'll be able to go back and change those if they do change. A question about the model negative incentive and the modeling software. So we are working with the HPXML vendors to update their rebate estimates so that negative savings is calculated accordingly. We can say that SNUG is in line to be updated in time to show the changes and accurately estimate. Of course, the job submission portal is always the official record for these estimates, but we do know that SNUG is working to align those calculations. We've also reached out to Optimizer and Cake, and those are in progress. So the goal is to have all of those updated and be in alignment. As always, if there's any question, please do refer to the job submission portal. Next question, how much money is available for advanced home upgrade in 2017? So the money isn't designated per pathway, it's program-wide, and what the $6.5 million is the total incentive bucket for both home upgrade and advanced home upgrade in the PG&E territory for where we implement. And I think that answers the next question that came through. So $6.5 million is its total. So home upgrade and advanced home upgrade are both included in the 6.5. Question, can a 2016 dated contract be submitted under the 2017 program if we aren't able to get the work completed by the February 1st deadline? At this point, no. Okay, a clarification question about the 50% cost and how it is related to the rebate calculation. So 50%, for those of you that missed it or couldn't hear it, 50%, the rebates are capped at 50% of the completed installation costs for both home upgrade and advanced home upgrade. So if you have a job that costs $4,000 to install, or $3,000 to install, but you're getting a $4,000 rebate, probably a rare circumstance, but that rebate would be prorated to match just 50% of the installed cost. So let me, I wanted to clarify the question about the 2016 applications. I'll reword it to try to make it a little less confusing. If you have a job that the scope of work was signed in 2016, but you weren't able to submit it by the February 1st deadline, if that application, if you haven't submitted it into the portal, and that application still meets the 2017 rebates and requirements, you'll be able to submit it in 2017. It'd be subject to all the 2017 requirements. What we really wanted to draw your attention to is that if you have anything in the pipeline right now and it doesn't reach, and this is for home upgrade pathway specifically, let me clarify that. Home upgrade pathway application that's in the pipeline at any stage and it doesn't reach application approved by February 1st, that will be canceled and flushed. I mean, we are switching over, and essentially the portal will look the same to you all, but all the data will be cleaned out and it'll be brand new for home upgrade jobs in February 8th. So it's in your best interest to get those applications approved so you don't have to cancel, resubmit, and you're eligible for the 16 amounts. But if the timing just didn't work out for some of those jobs and it happens to, and it is eligible for the 2017 amounts, you could submit it beginning February 8th as a new application. So wanted to clarify that one. Okay, a question. If we have 2016 applications open and submit them after or on January 1st, they have to have their permit finalized? Yeah, the permit closure requirement actually is in effect right now. It applies to all jobs that will be paid in 2017. And so if the application was approved after November 30th of this year, it is subject to those requirements. So yeah, if you haven't submitted it, it is definitely required at this point, the permit closure, if you are installing the equipment for which that applies. So a question about, will costs to correct CAS failures be included in the total project costs? So the total project, really what it's called in the portal is the completed installation cost. And you should see there's some notes in the job submission portal. Really the completed installation cost is meant to be for the energy efficiency measures only. So if there is a big remodel being done, and it's a $40,000 remodel, but the energy efficient measures and installation costs only amount to $8,000 of that, really you should only be putting in $8,000 for that completed installation cost. If you at the time had to correct a CAS failure on a piece of equipment that is energy efficient equipment and part of the scope, sure, you could include that as the completed installation cost. If this happened because of an FQC failure or CIP failure, what have you, at that point, no, the total isn't updated. I hope that answers the question. If you have a specific few scenarios, please do reach out to us. A question about covering building permit costs. Most people do include the building permit costs in their completed scope. That's a decision based on how you operate, but you would include that on the scope, of course, if you're submitting that to us.
And to be clear, the program will not pay for the permits for you.
Right, those aren't, it's not a reimbursable measure in this case. Okay, a question about access to the portal. You will have access to the job submission portal through February 1st. The only time it'll be completely inaccessible is between February 2nd and February 7th. It reopens on February 8th. So if you have jobs that you're trying to estimate rebate amounts and you're using the portal to do that, that's fine. The main thing is that if you're in home upgrade, you should only be submitting 2016 jobs, so jobs that the scope of work was signed in 2016 through February 1st. If you submit 2017 jobs during that time, it will be returned or canceled. And for advanced home upgrade, you should be submitting, all the jobs that you want to be included under the 2016 rebate rules and requirements. You will have access except for essentially a handful of days at the first week of February. So we are at time. If you didn't get your question answered, please do reach out to us after this. I hope that this was helpful. If you or your staff wanted to attend, we are having another webinar Monday at 4 p.m. It will cover the same material, so if you've attended today's and you caught all of it, you probably don't need to come to Mondays, but wanted to make you aware of it. We will be having another some webinars in January to cover some of these other items more in depth: rebate reservation, SoCal gas, PG&E, shared territory submissions, and HPHI kicker. We wanted to focus these two on what to do with your 2016 applications and some of the cutoff dates. So Thanks everyone for joining us today. Thanks for your participation in the program. We do appreciate it, and we hope this has been helpful. Please reach out to us if you have any questions, and if we don't talk to you before then, have a Happy New Year. Talk to you all later.